the past few days, we've been getting you voices on work-life balance. This is a debate that has been reignited because of the comments made by LNT chairperson Mr. Subrahmanyan, urging employees to work for 90 hours a week. Because the country needs committed youngsters for its growth. That's what he said. Well-known investor and corporate face Punita Sinha, who's also the founder of Pacific Paradigm Advisors, joins us now with her perspective. Thank you, Ms. Sinha, for your time. First of all, it's very nice to have women talk about work-life balance because women are equally driven. They're passionate, ambitious about work. That's what I believe in. I know many people, many women survive and they strive and they succeed in work despite domestic challenges. How do you look at this debate around work-life balance?
So see, in my experience, I don't believe there's anything really like work-life balance. Either you get into an industry that doesn't require you to work more than 9 to 5, but if you get into certain industries like, for example, financial services where I'm in, or in medicine, you have to put in what is required. And the more senior you become, nobody measures your hours, they measure your output. But you yourself drive to succeed and deliver an outcome. And sometimes that requires putting in a lot of hours. So I think it's very industry specific. I don't know how much of this debate is focused on different industries, but certain industries are known for really requiring people to work very hard. For instance, investment banking, private equity. Those require many more hours, even in financial services, as compared to, say, commercial banking, where you can do 9 to 5. Again, medicine, medicine's an industry, as you know, where women or men, when they're doing their residencies and when they're doing fellowships, and they have to work overnight. And sometimes, they work 2 nights in a row. Nurses, they have to work long hours. So if you're on a 9 to 5 job, most often those are in manufacturing roles or in roles that are, not so senior, where you're paid overtime. So I think depending on your seniority, depending on the industry, and then also there's a cultural aspect of the company's culture and the country in which you operate.
Right. That's a very important point. You speak about culture in offices and also the ethos of the social milieu that we live in, the country, as often deciding factors for even corporate life or culture. Do you see corporate India, society, also being more mindful now of the needs of their employees, particularly of women?
I think, COVID has really started this work from home culture, which has really benefited women. So now most companies don't really require you to come in all the time to work. You can work from home, not every day, but you can work from home on certain days as if needed. And so now there's an established protocol. So I think that really helps women. On boards, we often almost discuss inclusion, women in the workforce. Something like women in the workforce was probably not an agenda item 5 years ago or 7 years ago. It's now a very much an agenda item in boardrooms as to what's your women workforce percentage, how many women in senior positions at entry level, what can be done to retain the culture. So that is an important topic because it's hard to find talented employees. It's hard to find, even though India has a large population, there is still a mismatch between these skills and the job requirements. And the pool of talent gets narrower and smaller as you get to certain specialist roles. So people do try to accommodate the best person for the job, whether it's a man or a woman, and base it on their requirements.
Sure. So we're also talking about conversations in corporate India. What would your views be on LNT chairperson's view that his observation that working 90 hours a week is important, not staring at wives? Many have said that there is clearly a mismatch in the language that's used by senior corporates and the one that's used by younger professionals. How do you see it?
Interestingly, my first internship was at LNT, and when I was at IIT. And so I actually happened to work there in the R&D division. And in the R&D division, it was a very different culture. So even within divisions, and they're different cultures. So in the R&D division, I don't think people worked very, very long hours there, because there was no deadline per se. But if you're in a role that has deadlines, then you have to meet the deadlines. And so before selecting a job, I think candidates and employees also have to take cognizance of what they're getting into and what is the role. Are they getting into a role that remunerates more? More often, these high stress, high pressure jobs that have deadlines, that have quick turnarounds, they also pay better. And the 9 to 5 jobs are more comfortable, cushy, but they pay less. So there is a trade-off. There are always trade-offs. There is no free lunch, and particularly in manufacturing roles, there are shifts. So people have to adhere to those shifts and their government rules. So, but as I said, you as you get more senior, nobody measures you generally on the number of hours, but it's the output.
Right. Also, my last question to you, ma'am. Tell us the 3 most important things that are critical for women employees to be at their productive best when it comes to their workspaces.
I think flexibility to work your hours. Sometimes women prefer to, leave work early and then pick it up again after dinner, after the kids have gone to bed. So flexibility, but still be accountable for the deliverables that you have to produce. But, I think flexibility, then a culture in the organization which is not hostile, which is more nurturing, gentler, supportive. That I think that's the second. And the third is just fairness. I think women like to feel like they are being fairly rewarded for their work, fairly treated, and they don't feel that the men in the same role are getting more. But that it should really be linked to their performance.
Thank you, Punita Sinha, for joining us and for sharing your views. There are always trade-offs, important words there. It's also important to make a choice depending on what you see as your future or even present. With that, it's a wrap on the show. More news and updates on the other side.